So, so again, this is really about looking at the deeper levels. Okay, what is happening subconsciously that you don't necessarily want, okay, to be expressing? All right, so you communicate with somebody, you do everything right. Okay, you say the right things, and you say the right things, you act the right way, you're confident in yourself. Sometimes it just doesn't end up getting you the results, right? And so I have this happen a lot. I have a lot of clients come to me who really have no sense of what they're doing wrong, right? Which, I mean, partially it's kind of obvious because if they knew what the problem was, they would have fixed it by now already, right? So again, these things are going on underneath the surface. They're happening on a subconscious level, and that's extremely powerful. Okay, your subconscious level is very powerful. In fact, it's more powerful than your conscious mind, which is why if let's say you have an underlying belief that you're worthless, okay, something that's sort of negative about yourself. It doesn't matter how many times you look in the mirror and say, you're worth something, okay? That doesn't do anything. The reason it doesn't do anything is because you know on some level that's not true. Now that knowing is not accurate, okay? You are worth absolutely everything, right? But you've already decided in your deep subconscious that you need to, that you're worthless. So it doesn't matter how much you say it, okay? It's just not gonna produce any results, right? So the subconscious is more powerful. It's more powerful than the conscious mind, okay? And it's also out of your control. So the important thing there is that, again, if you knew what the problem was, you would have fixed it, right? If this were a conscious problem, you're intelligent, you talk to your friends, you read books, you look up things online. If this were able to be solved, if you had a dating issue that, was within your grasp to solve, you would have done so already. So the reason why you're doing everything right and you're not getting any results is because there's something going on the subconscious level, okay? There's something going on that's causing you to work against yourself. So if you take a big step forward and you say, I'm going to work on my self-confidence. I'm going to tell myself that I'm worth something every day. It's not that that's a bad exercise. Some people actually can get results. At a certain point, once you've found the underlying belief, then that exercise can help. But the reason why, for example, a lot of people struggle with The Secret, right? Not getting any results, and they make fun of it, if you can't just think things and then they'll happen, okay? And that is true, okay? You can, however, believe things and they will happen. And the belief level is what I'm talking about on the subconscious level, okay? So the reason why things like The Secret tend not to work that well is because you're saying you're deciding with your conscious mind something that is against what's in your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind will win out every time. And that's really where you see the effects. So if you're just like, I don't know why The Secret isn't working for me, I'm telling myself I'm wonderful every single day when I get up. Great. But until you do the underlying work as well, you won't feel results from that. Okay? So you really, does that make sense? It's really very important. They're two totally different levels, and they're both very much alive in you, and one is just totally blocking the other. Okay? So when you decide you want to go out on a date, you want to meet a woman, you want to, whether it's settling down or one night stand or whatever it is that you want to attract into your life, if you are unable to do it, then you've got something underneath the surface that's holding you back, right? And if any of you guys have questions out there that are watching right now, please feel free to write them in the box and I can answer them live today. That's sort of today's topic, is we're just going to do question and answer. So I've got some lined up that I'm going to use. But if you have some that are live, please go ahead and ask, and I'll go ahead and address them right here on the call. So I tend to work on that subconscious level because it's more powerful, okay? I work in dating. I work in helping single men attract life partners, things like that. But what I'm really teaching is how to stop self-sabotaging, okay? So I've actually used the same process that I use now with men dating. I've used it for many other topics in the past, okay? Because it's all the same process. The fact of the matter is we're getting you out of your own way so that you can create something in the future, Okay, you can actually get what you want. So that's what I'm actually teaching. Okay. So the way that I do that is I really look back at how you have evolved from a child age. Okay, so when we're young, we have an experience early on. Okay, that tends to be kind of traumatic. Okay, and what I mean by trauma is not necessarily neglect or abuse or abandonment or anything like that. Although if those things happen to you when you were a child, then those certainly can cause a person's wounding. But from even if you didn't have any of those experiences as a child, you still had a wounding experience, okay? Which is basically just an experience where you as a child felt that your life was threatened, okay? Which is, if you can imagine, as a child, is not that difficult to do, right? So if your parents left on a vacation and you didn't know whether or not they were coming back, right? Or something, happens, discord happens in the family, and you can, children are extremely sensitive to that type of thing. You can feel a shift, and all of a sudden, your sort of safe little world isn't so safe anymore, and you have this sort of realization, right? And when you have that realization, you draw a conclusion. Okay, this is every human on the planet right now, by the way. There's no exceptions to this. So you draw this conclusion, okay? We talked earlier about, I'm not worth anything, or I'm unlovable, or I'm, whatever it is that you feel is important. Excuse me, not feel is important, but whatever sort of feels like it resonates to you. That's what I mean by feeling important. So if you are, I'm not worth anything. Nobody's going to want me. And you go out and you go into the dating scene, you really truly believe that, then that's what will communicate. Okay, even if you do everything right, that is what will communicate, because that's what you really believe. That's what's really strong. It's really strong there. So, so you have these experiences, you create this limiting belief, and then you stick with it. Okay. So if you have an experience at that age, and then you draw a conclusion to it. So let's say that destabilization happens in your family, and you draw a conclusion that it's because of you, and if because you truly, they can be anything. I'm just trying to think of something random here. So if you've got destabilization in the family, and you are kind of a mischievous kid, you might feel like it's your fault. Okay, like if you had been better, then the family would have stayed together or whatever, right? And so then you draw that conclusion. That conclusion might sound something like, I'm too much. Okay, people can't handle me. If I show my real self, I'll destroy the world. I mean, it's like these sort of like wide arching statements. One will feel true to you. Okay, and the wording actually is quite important, but it'll be something like that. Okay, like, I'm too much, or like in some way you sort of, I caused this, I'm too much, and so you see, when I was just myself, my family fell apart, and you sort of draw that conclusion. And of course, it's not accurate in any way, shape, or form, right? But it is very powerful. And so you carry that for the rest of your life. So if your belief is that you're too much and you keep it buttoned down all the time, you're going to be miserable in a couple of decades, right? Because you're believing something that isn't true. You're not too much. That's not accurate. That's just what you saw as a child. So then when you go through life and you say, I'm too much, I'm gonna hold back, that could cause a lot of things. It could cause depression. You're literally depressing emotions. That's what depression is. Okay. Depression is actually a couple of things. Let's talk about this. Depression and anxiety. If you find that you are depressed, okay, you are perpetually depressed, two things to check. One is there's probably emotions in there that you're not letting out. Okay, there are emotions in there that literally get depressed. Okay, you're pushing them down, and that makes you feel weighted and heavy, and the energy flow isn't able to move through you because you're holding it in. Okay, because you're not releasing those emotions. Okay, very important. Emotions are waves. They follow a wave pattern. Okay, so if your favorite dog dies, right, or you're a family member, or something happens where there's grief, okay? It will be really, really high a lot in the beginning, and then it will come down, and then it'll go really, really high for a little less time, and it will sort of have this wave pattern, and then gradually the waves will get a little smaller and a little bit further in between, and it will sort of go from there, okay? So you have this sort of experience of the wave increasing and decreasing, and if you don't allow it to do that, if you restrict it, I can't take any more pain, I'm going to stop it right now, then you've stopped the flow, and they don't move through. Okay, that's what happens when people grieve, or excuse me, when people don't grieve properly, then they'll get stuck in it. Okay, they'll either start dwelling on the pain. Okay, they'll sort of wrap themselves up in it and not let it go. Right, they're holding onto the wave. They're holding it high at that point, or they're not even letting the pain come through their system. They're holding it low. Okay, either way, you're restricting your natural flow of emotions, and that will cause depression. Okay. The other thing to look for if you're experiencing depression is being focused on the past. Okay? There are a number of spiritual paths that focus on being present. Okay? When you're present, you're just there. You're in and it is what it is type of space. When you tend to focus a lot on the past, it leads to depression. If you tend to focus a lot on the future, you tend to experience anxiety. Okay? These two things are very strongly linked to focusing on the past and focusing on the future. Okay? So if you experience either of those two things, be aware of that. If you're always worried about what's coming, that's not a useful emotion. It doesn't prepare you for the future. Okay? It doesn't help you, it doesn't logically help you prepare, it doesn't make the situation any better, it's just useless worry. Okay, guilt is another one. Guilt is a profoundly useless emotion. It doesn't really move through you, it doesn't really teach you anything, it doesn't really evolve your soul, it kind of just sort of holds things where they are. Okay? So that's just something to be aware of with depression and anxiety that a lot of people don't know and can be really very powerful. Okay, so we've got a question that has come up here. So David says, I have recently discovered I have some serious health issues. Is it wrong to pursue long-term love relationships when my time is now no longer open-ended? So this is really up to you, okay? If you've communicated clearly, then how to spend your time is up to you and your love, right? So if you, if you're in a long time, I don't know if you're in a relationship right now or not, but if you're in a relationship right now and you're wondering whether or not to end it, here's the potential gift in a situation like that, okay? You now know. You now know what the next period of time looks like for you, okay? As far as length of time, right? The rest of us are living in total unknown. My recommendation there would be to sit down and see how it is that you want to spend the rest of that time. Okay? The person that you're in that relationship with, if you are in a long-term relationship, how perfect is it? Because if it were me, and this is just me, I wouldn't waste a goddamn moment. I would find the person that I really want to be with, and I would not leave their side. I'm also a very relationship-focused person, right? So to me, the idea of choosing anything over a great relationship just kind of seems crazy. I'd love to be with that person, but my job is taking me this way. It's like, I don't know, make it work. Like that to me, it's such an important thing. It's a hard thing to find. So, is it wrong to pursue long-term relationships? No, of course not. Of course not. By all means, communicate. You know, say what's going on. It's up to you and it's up to her whether or not you guys want to, you know, pursue something longer term, whether or not you want to engage. Okay. I've been in situations where, you know, the relationship itself had an end point, right? The partner I had was leaving. And I struggled, you know, I had to decide, okay, who do I want to be in this moment? This is always, always, always what it's about. Always what it's about. Who do you want to be in this moment, in this situation? Don't worry about the situation. Stop trying to change the situation. It flat out leads nowhere. Okay, that's just not, it's not useful for you. Okay? Who do you want to be in the face of reality? Stop arguing with reality. Stop wishing it were some other way. Stop putting shoulds on the rest of the world. The amount of goddamn time that is wasted in this practice is extraordinary. Okay? It's just not useful. Okay? Don't do it. Let it go. Let it go. Okay? It is what it is. It is not your job nor your right to change reality. Okay? You choose what you want to do given life's circumstances. Okay? Stop trying to change life's circumstances and decide how you want to respond. That's the goal. Okay? So, you've just gotten some news. Okay? Now you know how much longer you're going to live. Great. How do you want to spend that time? Okay? This can be an opportunity to just drop all the bullshit, all of the shoulds. I mean, you are free of shoulds, or free of shoulds anyway, but for you especially, you know, if you have the situation, I just found out I have this long to live, what do I want to do? What do you want to do? That is the conversation to have with yourself now. What is exactly what you want to do? What do you want to have accomplished? Where do you want to have gone? You know, what are you unwilling to go without? You know, early in my life, I struggled very much with depression, and I was suicidal several times, and which I'm sorry to say is not particularly uncommon for people in my country. And, you know, I found over the years, I decided not to do it. Spoiler alert. But what I ended up doing was I started getting really excited, actually, about that place. And this sounds absolutely crazy. But when I got to that point, when things got so bad for me in my head that I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm out of here. Oh God, the freedom that came from that place. The freedom. Nothing held me anymore. Truly, if I'm at the point where I'm willing to take my own life, well then to hell with all of the expectations and the shoulds and the things I think I ought to do with my life, all of the shit that was getting to me to this place in the first place, it just lost all its meaning. It just lost it. It had no... Well, if that's the case, I mean, if it's either this or don't live at all, well then, damn, maybe I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Okay, and that freedom was absolutely intoxicating. And I came up with a plan. I said, okay, if I ever feel this way again, then I had a specific location that I don't think I've ever shared with anyone on the planet where I would go, and I would stay there. And it's like, that's my runaway. That's when things get so bad and I can't handle shit. It's so bad that I'm thinking about taking my own life. And I just flipped it. And nobody taught me this. I just did it. I just learned it on my own. I thought, okay, great. Well, then if that's the case, there's no more stakes. Well, in that case, let's go to, some tropical island or some mountain. I mean, it's like all bets are off, right? So you have no more, so to this question, you have no more obligations in a way, in a certain way of looking at the situation. You could see it that way. So all of the things that you think you should be doing or that you would be chastising yourself for if you didn't have this happening, you have the opportunity to drop all that if you want. So as far as pursuing long-distance relationships or long-term relationships, it's entirely up to you. It's what do you and she want to do. Does that help? Because it's really about how you want to spend your time. And the gift, of course, here is that you know how much time is left. So how you want to spend your time is utterly up to you. And you don't have to apologize to anyone for it. And obviously, again, this is all the case normally, but we just normally forget and we subject ourselves to shoulds and to ought tos and all these kinds of things, right? So that's a really powerful place. That can be a very powerful place to evolve, right? And also people survive things a lot more than we're led to believe. You know, I know a lot of people who have gotten, you know, who have gotten diagnoses that, you know, they're supposed to live this long and nobody told them that, you know. So it doesn't need to be as solid as it's tempting for that to be. I've also never had that experience, so I can't pretend that I know exactly where it is that you're coming from. But you know, the other thing that I was actually gonna cover today is that we really choose. Interesting, this came up. What I was going to talk about earlier today, as I was preparing for the show, is that, you know, regardless of what happens to us in life, how we respond to it is our choice. Okay, which is kind of like the don't argue with reality thing, but this is from another angle. Okay, from an empowerment angle. You can't really stop, you know, what happens to you. You can influence it, of course, and make certain choices. But once something has happened to you, you choose. You always choose what it is that you want. Okay? So if you say, you know, sort of, I have all these traumatic events, and I have, you know, I was in this abusive relationship, and I was in, you know, this negative relationship, or, you know, had this negative experience, or this person, great. A, you're fine, you're here. B, people have been through worse. C, okay, that sucks. It's really painful. Who do you want to be in this moment? Being, you know, letting yourself feel pain and being a victim are not the same thing, okay? Being a victim is sidestepping your own self-responsibility, okay? That never needs to happen. We do it a lot because self-responsibility is scary, right? And we'd rather kind of blame it on someone else. But unfortunately, that doesn't really work, because you are the captain of your soul, right? This is up to you. This whole life is up to you. So how you want to respond, is up to you. And that's extremely important and extremely powerful. So if something shitty happens to you, right, or you make some shitty choices and they lead to terrible things, which is like 9 times out of 10 when horrible things happen, short of, you know, natural disasters and stuff like that. But we create, I mean, way more of our life experience than we think, even when we're aware that we create some of our life experience. But what's really important there is, again, how we respond. Okay? So don't look at it as, oh, you know, this thing happened to me, and if this hadn't happened, then arguing with reality. Don't do it. It did happen. So what would have happened had it not happened is irrelevant. It's hard to even argue, you know, they have the same argument. It's complicated to even argue it. So we're so addicted to this to this victimhood. It's just so tempting. It's just so tempting. We're so attached to it that, that we just slide into it at any given time, right? Well, it's not my fault. I was at the bank, actually. I was in the bank earlier today, and this woman ahead of me in line was just, one of those people who just, did not seem to have her stuff together. Do you know what I mean? She just, she was sort of ruffling around for things and couldn't find what she needed, and she was apologizing to the clerk, and she was like, yeah, but this isn't my fault, right? She's like, I'm sorry about the thing earlier, but that wasn't my fault, right? And he's like, yeah, of course, that's fine. And she said, yeah, but you know that it's not my fault. Do you know that it's not my fault? Do you think that was my fault? And she probably said it 5 or 6 times, just sort of standing there as she's fussing through her bag and trying to get through. And I found that fascinating. I was like, she's so concerned about it not being her fault that unfortunately she's going to stay in that place of it's also not able to be fixed by me. Because the upside of embracing that self-responsibility is that if it's in your power, if you're causing the problem in some way, then it's also within your power to fix. So being empowered is always the way that it has to be in order to actually solve the problem, okay? If you just want to feel badly about the problem, that's totally fine. It's not, however, going to fix the problem. But it is fine. It feels good. There's some negative pleasure in that, which is so there aren't just sort of good feelings and bad feelings in the world, right? Energy has an entire spectrum. Emotions are spectrum-y in some ways. But the significant part, I'm trying to think of exactly how it is that I want to explain this. So empowerment has to happen either way, okay? You have to take control of the situation. And to take control of the situation, you have to admit that it has something to do with you, okay? Because if you don't, then you're powerless to fix it. So the extent to which you are able to take responsibility for your life is the extent to which you're able to influence and adjust it. So let me say that again. The extent to which you are able and willing to take responsibility for your life is the extent to which you are able to influence and adjust your life experience, okay? So you can't be like, oh God, this stuff is happening to me and I feel, I feel this kind of thing, and stay in that place because that place doesn't move, okay? You need to sort of stand up, be like, ugh, this sucks. Let yourself feel the pain of how much this sucks. This isn't about toughening it out and pushing your feelings away. This is about letting them go through you. Okay, we all sort of think that oh, if you're tough, then you don't have any feelings. Well, actually, it's a lot harder to feel that shit, right? To actually let yourself go into and embrace the sort of, sort of thing of nasty, dirty human emotions, right? And we'd rather just be happy all the time. But again, that's arguing with reality, because what's happening right now in this moment is that you're sad. Okay? So the fastest way to get through anything ever is to just stay with it as it comes through your system. So if there's grief, let yourself feel it. It honestly, it can be scary. It's like letting yourself, it's like jumping off a cliff. That's what it feels like, because you can't see the bottom. You're like, if I open the floodgates to this emotion, then I'm never gonna get through them, basically. And I've had that feeling. I was like, if I open this door, it's never gonna stop. It's just a belief. It's not true. Your emotions are not gonna swallow you, okay? They're not gonna hurt you in any way. Sorry, I have to adjust my hair. My hair keeps getting in my face. So the extent to which you're able to take responsibility, self-responsibility is the key to self-mastery. It really is. You need to take responsibility for your own actions, okay? And for nothing else, okay? Your own life experience, every aspect of it, more than you think, but not the other person's, okay? You cannot You cannot take responsibility for the way someone else behaves towards you, but you can take it as input. Let me explain. So if if you're just like, well, I'm great, I'm happy all the time, other people are just bitchy and that's always about them. Well, anytime something's a pattern in your life, and I mean it happens twice, you come across two bitchy people in a row, take a look at what you're putting out, okay? Because something's creating that. That's happening somehow, okay? So if you, and the same thing for the way around, if all of a sudden it's like, oh, God, everything today has just been going so smoothly and so wonderfully, or, I'm really not struggling with X, Y, and Z that much this entire month, or whatever that is for you, notice that. It's very powerful. Your system, how you see what we see life through the screen of our past experiences and our beliefs and our parenting and our inner monologue, inner dialogue in our heads, and all these sorts of things, and that sort of creates a screen, right? A way to see the world. And when we see the world that way, we think we're right because we think we're looking at the same world that everybody else is, but we're actually not, right? Two people are standing right next to each other and they've got two totally different life experiences in that moment, because they've had completely different lives, completely different values, things like that. Even if your values are very similar, they will be similar in different ways. So if you think that, loyalty is important in a relationship, and I think that loyalty is important in a relationship, that might be in two different ways. You might feel that loyalty is important because, because you've been, because that's what you think is a core pillar for a strong relationship, right? I might think loyalty is important because I got cheated on 13 times, and I'm, it's something that I must have in a relationship before I let myself really fall in love. You can see how that same core value, I can ask you if you feel loyalty is important, and I can ask you if you feel loyalty is important. You'll both say yes, but you're coming at it from two totally different ways, okay? So when you say, oh yeah, loyalty is very important, or monogamy is very important, or, having marriage be between a man and a woman is very important. Like, whatever your values are, and those aren't mine, but they do belong to some people, fine. But where is that coming from? Okay, do you believe that marriage is exclusively between a man and a woman because you're terrified of the ideas of gay marriage? Or you're a guy and you're uncomfortable with gay men because you're afraid they're gonna hit on you or attack you or something? Or do you just feel that, that there's no energy around that and that love can happen in any way and it's not something to be restricted in the world? Whatever it is that you believe, this isn't about having certain beliefs. Okay, I have certain beliefs, but so does everyone else. Okay, I don't think that everyone should think like me. Although I do think the world would be a vastly better place if that happened. I'm just tossing that out there, just saying I'm open to it. But I don't actually walk around in life expecting that to happen. Although maybe I should. See? Beliefs. They're in there. So so the thing about depression, you're focusing your thoughts a lot in the past. Anxiety, focusing your thoughts a lot in the future. Taking self-responsibility, letting yourself be with what is, okay? Not arguing with reality is probably the most important thing of all of these, okay? You need to let yourself, if you're feeling sad, you're like, I don't want to feel sad now. I want to feel happy because my brother's in town and we want to go out. Okay, you can't really pretend that you don't feel a certain way. Feelings are authentic. You can push the feeling away, but it won't be a happy evening because that's not accurate. What your system is needing, it's been clear about. System needs to be sad. Okay. Your system is very complex. There's a lot of things going on. Okay, you've got a physical body. That's tricky to get used to. You've got a brain that has all these thoughts and has all these sensations. You've got emotions. You've got mental level. You've got thoughts. You've got beliefs. You've got spiritual nature. You've got an energy field, and you've got psychology. So really, there's all these different levels that kind of create what it's like to be human. So being human is not, it's not that easy sometimes. It can be tricky. All right. Understand that you're not the only one that feels that way, if you are in fact feeling that way. If you're not feeling that way now, that's great. Chances are you've probably felt that way in the past. And it's okay. You know, there's just this sort of learning process and, you know, process of kind of going through. Again, who do you want to be in this moment? But keep that focus. If you keep your focus shifted towards trying to change the world around you, then you're going to always be hitting up against resistance. Okay? If you take the world around, you know, if you take this as, you know, okay, well, this is the situation, here's who I want to be. That's different. Now, let me also say that who you may want to be in the moment may be someone who changes the world around you. That's totally fine. Let me explain. So you're someone who, let's say you see the problem of homelessness in the world, or let's just say in the country, in the US. And you feel, you know, very passionately about that. You may say, yep, this is the situation. Homelessness is what it is. I feel like spending my time trying to change that situation. who am I in this moment? I am someone who feels passionately about changing the homelessness situation in the US. Fine. There's no distortion in any of that. You will be very successful if that is your perspective, okay? Here's the alternative. Homelessness is what it is in this country. That brings up a lot of, let's say, maybe abandonment issues for you that are in your psyche from your childhood, okay? Or neglect issues maybe, or hunger issues. I mean, whatever it is that triggers for you, and you're so uncomfortable with your own emotions that you have to change the world out there before you feel safe inside, that's a whole different dynamic. Does that make sense? So in one of them, you're responding to the situation. I see homelessness. I accept that for what it is. And you know what? I'm going to spend my life trying to change it because that feels good to me. I feel passionate about that. It brings me life. Great. We need people to work on homelessness. That's a thing. Great. Okay? If you're trying to change the world around you because you're uncomfortable with it the way it is, that is different. Okay? If you're trying to change the world around you to make yourself more comfortable, that's different. Okay, so let's bring this back to relationships. So let's see. So there's a problem in a relationship. You're the guy in the relationship, and or excuse me, let's say you're the woman in the relationship, and the man let's say needs to work a lot. Okay, so the intensive job, needs to work a lot. Fine. And then you're feeling, insecure. You want him to work less because you want to spend more time with him. Two ways you could respond to that. Okay, one is, honey, I know that you have to work a lot. I'm feeling like I miss you. I need more connection with you. What do you think we can do about that? And then boom, you're changing the situation from that perspective. If I need you to work less because I'm insecure without you, or because I don't want to face the part of myself that comes up when I'm alone, then I'm trying to change you in order to avoid feeling what's coming up in me. Whereas what needs to happen is I need to sit there, right? The one who's feeling insecure, I need to sit there and look at my insecurities. He's working a lot and I'm feeling really angry at him. Wonder what that's about. Spoiler alert, it's not about him. It's my anger. That is my anger. So there's no, he makes me so angry. That is not a thing. Nobody makes you feel anything. There are people who have relatives die and don't feel anything. I'm not saying that's awesome. It doesn't matter, whatever, it is what it is. But if you don't, he makes me so angry. So he does that every time and it makes me mad. He knows it makes me mad and he does it anyway. Well, it's not making you mad. What is it that's creating anger in you out of that situation? What is it that he's reminding you of that's then eliciting anger? Okay? Because to do anything else is embracing a little bit of that victimhood. right? It's not my fault I feel this way. He's the one doing all these things. Well, in any moment, there's an infinite number of ways that we can react to any given situation. You're choosing anger out of all of those infinite. And I know it's not a conscious choice, of course, you're just feeling angry, right? But it's incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful. Because at that point, it looks like it's inevitable. Those emotions look like they're inevitable. But they're actually not. It's like, he's working a lot. I'm feeling really insecure. I'm going to explore that. Hey, Dominey. Yes, Dominey? Why is it that you think that, why do you think we're feeling so insecure? Why am I so mad at him? What exactly has he done that's made me so angry? Well, he's working. Is that unreasonable for a person to do? Well, no. No, I guess not in itself. Okay, so then what's really making you think, well, every time he chooses to stay at work, I feel abandoned. Oh. Is he abandoning you? No, he's just working. Do I feel abandoned? Yes, and that's very real, and that's very important. It's just not because of him. Okay, so then we go a level deeper. I wonder what it is that, why is it that when he goes to work, I feel abandoned? And we work our way backwards. Dad always used to go to work, and it was always during, he would always miss bedtime story time. And I remember Mom saying that bedtime story time should be both parents, and it wasn't, and so I felt that he should be there, and he wasn't, and every time he wasn't, I felt abandoned. I'm making stuff up, but this is like a total, this is very likely. Okay? So every time my husband leaves, chooses to stay late at work, I feel slighted, I feel abandoned, I feel left, and those are all things that I felt when I was a child. Again, this is not me personally, this is just in the scenario, that I felt as a child when Dad didn't show up for me. I did not get what I needed in that moment, in that way as a child. And so I've held on to that. If a man chooses work over me, that means he's abandoning me, means he does not love me. Okay, well, if you don't even know that you're carrying that belief around in your head, then yeah, it's going to piss you off. And then you're going to get angry at your husband, whose fault this is not, right? Which is not to say that something needs to be adjusted, but the insecurity is not created from that interaction. Okay, you're triggered. You're being triggered from something from way back. Does that make sense? So then we're fighting about the wrong thing, and that's why the subconscious work has to be done. You have to go back into your life and see what created these issues that are pervasive in your life today. Something created them. Okay, something happened where you went, this is terrible. Right? A parent not showing up for a time that's really important to you, that leaves a mark on a kid, right? On some kids. Some kids won't even notice. So don't worry about wounding your children or not wounding your children, because that's an inevitable thing. But that does leave a mark, right? And so then they come into my office, 30 years later, and they say, God, he's always working, and I think I'm going to leave him. Like, okay, let's work our way back. You may need to end the marriage for legitimate reasons, but let's not end it for non-legitimate reasons, shall we? If he's being an asshole about it, if you're like, not that's a reason to leave a marriage, it's not, but if I've told him a bunch of times, and we've talked about it, we've communicated, I've told him what I need, and fine, handle your own shit first. Because otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to attract this relationship into your life again. Okay, you're going to lose this guy. You're going to feel all superior about it and very right. I'm very right. He was always working. I had to leave. Sure, fine. You decided to leave. Well, guess what? You haven't solved that problem in yourself. So the next guy you attract is going to do the exact same goddamn thing. Because the child part of your brain that got, kind of screwed over when you were a baby is trying to recreate the situation with your father and have a different outcome. 3 guesses how well that works. Ever. The fact of the matter is that while you're acting out of these defenses, while you are coming from a place of insecurity from a time that was not now, you will be unable to address the situation in the moment. You'll be unable to fix the problem. You will never, ever have a relationship with a man who does not leave you for work, okay? Because you're subconsciously creating the same thing over and over and over again. So until you work out what the problem really is, it's not going to be any change. It's not going to be any change at all. So that's what this is really about. Okay, this is about finding out who you are, finding out what happened to you when you were young, finding out why it is that you can't attract this relationship that you really want. Okay, but there's always a reason. Okay, never fall back on, oh, I can't, and something wrong with me, or that's a cop-out. Do your work. It's in there somewhere. This is literally what I do. I've been doing it for 20 years. And I've changed many, many lives. And my life has been changed through this work. Massively. Okay? Because then once you do find out, you go, oh, turns out it's not any of my 3 past husbands. It's actually this experience I had with my dad where I got really, where I felt abandoned. Then you heal that wound in yourself, and then guess what? You're not attracted to the guys who work anymore. You're not. You don't want them. They just won't do it for you. It won't even be a conscious thought like, that man works a lot. I think I won't go. You won't even need to. You will not be drawn because you're no longer acting from that child place that's trying to recreate this childhood hurt. Okay? You're now acting as an adult. Here's who I am. I understand that you work a lot. You know what? It's actually really not that big of a deal. Or it is, and I need to make another choice, but now there's no more panic. There's no more like, oh my God, like if you don't do this, you don't love me, and it doesn't have all this other meaning because you're no longer triggered. Now you're just responding to the situation. Again, this is the reality. How do you want to respond? Okay? And if you analyze that response, that's where the gold is. Okay? That's where you start learning about yourself and you start moving through things, and then you fundamentally begin to change, and in a positive and good way. You become more yourself. It's an incredible, incredible, incredible transformation to see. Like coming out of a cocoon and becoming a butterfly. It's really quite extraordinary. So that was what I really wanted to speak with you about today. I'm glad we got at least one question answered. I think I chatted over the rest, and I apologize. We'll do some more later. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you found that useful, and I look forward to speaking with you more in the future. Take very good care. I'll talk to you soon.